What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best gaming-related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. A gaming franchise and even a movie franchise that I've really enjoyed, guys, and I can't wait to see the continuation of it, is Tomb Raider, guys. A franchise that has spanned all the way back to 1996, and we've been having pretty consistent games throughout. And I would have to say, guys, that the older games I didn't like quite as much as the newer ones, but nonetheless, this is a franchise that has really stood the test of time, and it'll be really interesting to see where these games go moving forward, or if we are going to get games in the future in the Tomb Raider franchise, which I think is pretty obvious, but at the same time, is it? What we're going to talk about here is what happened to Tomb Raider as far as a franchise that was definitely something people really enjoyed to something now that is becoming pretty much a phenomenon amongst a lot of people within the Tomb Raider community. So let's talk about it. Guys, if you look at the release timeline of Tomb Raider, like I said, it spans back to 1996, and pretty much, guys, from 1996 all the way to 2003, you pretty much had a brand new game come out or expansions of those games, and that's a pretty good stretch, right? You have Tomb Raider, Tomb Raider 2, Tomb Raider 3, The Last Revelation, Tomb Raider, The Chronicles, Curse of the Sword, The Prophecy, The Angel of Darkness. I mean, guys, between 1996 and 2003, you're basically getting something every year as far as content goes, or brand new games that come out, which is pretty impressive. A couple years later, you had Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld in 2006 to 2008, and then a couple years later, you had Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light. And look, what I would say, guys, is after that stretch between 1996 and 2003, there was a little bit of a hiatus for a couple of years. And then, of course, you had Legend come out in 2006, Anniversary 2007, and Underworld in 2008. And I think that this was kind of, not necessarily the dark ages of Tomb Raider, but more so like just kind of a lull in the franchise. You get to Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, which I didn't really care much for, but that was in 2010. And then a couple of years later, you had just Tomb Raider come out in 2013. And this was obviously, I think it was a pretty good addition to the franchise. You had in 2014 Lara Croft in the Temple of Osiris, Lara Croft Relic Run, Lara Croft Go, and then also in 2015 came out Rise of the Tomb Raider, which in my opinion was the best game to date. And then of course a few years after that you had Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which was in 2018. So not too long ago, guys. Now what I do want to say about this though is, as a whole, when you look at kind of what happened here, you had 1996 to 2003, you had basically games and expansions every year. Then close to like the middle of the timeline, you got more so kind of a lull in the franchise, and just pretty much from 2004 to 2012 or 2013 really, in my opinion, was a really big time lull in the franchise. And then all of a sudden, guys, you had significant incline and then somewhat of a decline in those years. And then all of a sudden, after really Rise of the Tomb Raider come out, we have Shadow of the Tomb Raider in 2018, and that's kind of been taking us up and up once again. Question is, are we going to continue an upward trend, or are we going to go back downhill? And that's something that I definitely want to talk to you guys about, because look, there was a bunch of spin-off games, guys. The first spin-off title in the series was a game for the Game Boy Color titled Tomb Raider, developed by Core Design and released in 2000. Its sequel, Tomb Raider Curse of the Sword, was released in 2001 for the GBC, and then in 2002, a new game for the GBA called Tomb Raider The Prophecy was developed by Ubisoft Milan and published by Ubisoft. In 2003, four Tomb Raider titles were mobile phones, were released. A platform puzzler for mobile devices, Lara Croft Go, was released in 2015. Part of me, guys, thinks that they focus a little bit too much resources, in my opinion, on the mobile devices and, other connecting with the franchise in other ways, even though I think it's great to have it so that people can connect in many different ways. I just think that they were spending a little bit too much time on that instead of really adding, more additions to the main story and main franchise. Beginning in 2010, a separate sub-series titled Lara Croft was in development, offering experiences separate from the development of the main series and existing in its own continuity. The first game in this sub-series, Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, was released in 2010 as a downloadable title for PC, PS3, and Xbox 360. The next game in the series, Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris, was released for both retail and download in 2014 for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. And then another entry for mobile devices, an endless runner platform titled Lara Croft Relic Run, was released in 2015. Now, if you're a massive fan of the Tomb Raider series, you'll know that this is, it's great to have content regardless of really what it is. And we talk about this a lot on the YouTube channel, whether it's, mobile device, additions or main additions. It all is helping build the franchise at the end of the day. But what most people want, guys, are main additions to the franchise, that being like on consoles, PC, and things of that nature. That being like Rise of the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Of course, what would be interesting is if they're going to continue with, Tomb Raider, if they're going to go back to like Lara Croft and they're going to kind of do some more side stories and things of that nature. There were some canceled games, though. The Angel of Darkness was originally the first game in a trilogy with its sequel titled The Lost Dominion. While The Lost Dominion was undergoing preliminary development, the negative reception of The Angel of Darkness caused the entire trilogy to be scrapped. With Eidos' approval, Core Design began development of an updated edition of the first game for the PSP called Tomb Raider: The Anniversary Edition in late 2005. With a projected release date of Christmas 2006, development continued while Core Design staff were working on the platformer Free Running. When Core Design was sold to Rebellion Developments, Eidos requested the project's cancellation. It was suggested by staff that Eidos did not want to let outside developers handle the franchise. So that's kind of an interesting, interesting topic, that there were some canceled games here, guys. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about was more recently, when we talk about the reception of these newer titles, in particular Shadow of the Tomb Raider, since that was the last one that came out, what can we learn from this? Moving forward to like future additions to the franchise if we get those. So the reception, guys, of Shadow of the Tomb Raider received generally favorable reviews according to video game review aggregator Metacritic. So according to Metacritic, guys, on PC, PS4, and Xbox One, the scores were 77 out of 100, 75 out of 100, and 82 out of 100 respectively. And so that's pretty good. It's not like amazing, but it's certainly favorable reviews. And then you look at the rest of the reviews, guys, from like IGN gave it a 9 out of 10, EGM 8 out of 10, GameSpot 6 out of 10, PC Gamer 84 out of 100. So overall, there were some reviews that were really positive for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Others weren't, quite as good. But that being said, I think what it really comes down to is for the future of this franchise to continue, how well did it do regarding, sales and such. Reception is a huge ordeal as well. Rachel Weber from Games Radar also praised the game, calling it the strongest entry in the rebooted trilogy and saying that Shadow of the Tomb Raider sticks to Lara's strengths while embracing its dark side. She also believed the challenge tombs were the best part of the game, saying the tombs are still the most satisfying part of the Tomb Raider universe, and they're hidden around the world to make even finding them an achievement. So what's cool, guys, is that this is a franchise that not only has, video games, but it also has movie adaptations, and the movie adaptations, at least the most recent one, I thought was actually decent. And, it's interesting to see that this is a franchise that's continuing to grow as we go. And it seems to me that if you're a big Tomb Raider fan, which I am myself after really Rise of the Tomb Raider came out, I'm excited to see where this franchise goes, because one thing that I think we can all agree on is that it's a very dark take on Tomb Raider as a whole, but it's also it's very gritty, and it feels a lot kind of Uncharted-esque in a number of ways with Rise of the Tomb Raider and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. But Ben Yahtzee Croshaw of Zero Punctuation ranked it as the second blandest game of 2018, saying that it was the game that made Rise of the Tomb Raider proud when the latter was the third blandest game of 2015. Which is obviously, there was some criticism with this title, but that's how it is with any title, guys. There's going to be positives, there's going to be negatives. But by the end of December 2018, the game shipped 4.12 million copies, which is a pretty big deal, guys. It got nominated for a lot of awards as well in 2018 as well as 2019. So look, what we can look at is what the reception was, what were the sales like? And generally speaking, really all comes down to sales at the end of the day. And what we can say is 4.12 million copies at the end of December 2018. That was back in 2018, guys. We're in 2020 now. So they've obviously sold more copies in this franchise. And so I think, guys, that it's only not a matter of if, but a matter of when we will see the next continuation of this franchise. So what I think happened, guys, was we had some games that were a great stretch of time, lots of Tomb Raider games, lots of expansions, and then we had a significant lull in the franchise for a number of years until we got kind of the official reboot. And I really feel like the reboot started with Rise of the Tomb Raider. Others would say it would start before that, but I thought Rise of the Tomb Raider was the first real game in this series where I felt like, okay, Tomb Raider is really making a significant name for itself. It's really trying to make its cement its place in gaming at this very point. And then with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it just continued that. And so moving forward, guys, I think like I said, if you're a member of this community, you're excited about the continuation, I think there's no reason to believe that there isn't going to be a continuation. I think that there certainly will be continued Tomb Raider games in the future, but let me know in the comment section below what you guys want to see from this franchise moving forward, guys. For me, it always really comes down to the big three things, and that would be a single-player experience, multiplayer experience, and co-op experiences, which Shadow of the Tomb Raider and, most of these Tomb Raider games are only single-player experiences, so I want more ways that I can connect with the franchise. But let me know what you guys want in the next Tomb Raider, of course, continuation or the next addition to the franchise. Let me know what it is that you guys want. And for more Tomb Raider content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. What happened to Prince of Persia, guys? A franchise that spans all the way back to 1989, and all of a sudden, it seems like we really don't get very much word about a continuation of this franchise. So what I want to talk about in this segment of the show is kind of what happened to Prince of Persia. The latest release we got, guys, was Prince of Persia Escape, which came out September 27th of 2018 on iOS and Android, so a mobile game. But we haven't seen a continuation of this franchise, so let's talk about what happened. We can kind of speculate and talk about what we think might have happened, and will we ever see a return to this franchise? So let's talk about it. So guys, like I said, this is a franchise that spans back to 1989 with Prince of Persia, and based on the timeline, guys, we have had a number of these games have come out, and really, in my personal opinion, some great games to say the least. I would say that the biggest, I would say the time of which we can say that this was a series at its peak and at its prime was between 2003 and 2005, when you had, of course, the Sands of Time, Warrior Within, The Two Thrones, and Battles of Prince of Persia. And there were other games, of course, in the series that were really good, but I feel like that stretch of time was the strongest point, at least in my opinion, for this franchise. At least those were the times when I was playing these games pretty religiously, and I thought that they were absolutely incredible. And, of course, there were other games that were good, The Forgotten Sands. There were other decent entries into the franchise. But I just thought, guys, that really at that point in time, between 2003 and 2005, I really would love to go back to those days and have some continuation of some of those titles, because I thought that they were just very well made and a lot of fun, to say the least. So here was the thing, though. You had between 2003 and 2005, you had all of these, additions to the franchise, and you had a couple years off. You had Prince of Persia Classic, Prince of Persia in 2008, and The Fallen King. Forgotten Sands came out in 2010, a couple years later, and then 3 years later, The Shadow and the Flame, which was a remake, and then a number of years later until we got Prince of Persia Escape in 2018, which, of course, guys, was the iOS and Android version of Prince of Persia. So there were a number of spin-offs, there were a number of mobile games. Now, as far as the future is concerned, guys, in 2012, leaked images from a project entitled Osiris were widely assumed to be the next Prince of Persia title. Jordan Mechner even commented on his Twitter account that the images were not from a Prince of Persia game. A year later, in 2013, Yanis Mallet, CEO of Ubisoft Montreal, said that the franchise was being paused, saying that as soon as we have something to show, we will. In the following months, Ubisoft confirmed that they were either planning or considering next-gen entries in multiple franchises, including Prince of Persia. Look, guys, this is another franchise that had Of course, a movie that was made out of it, and it didn't do very well whatsoever, but this is another franchise that is gotten kind of an expanded franchise, expanded like universe. This kind of spans multiple different platforms, that being like video games and movies, entertainment. And ultimately, guys, the question is kind of, what really happened here. And in an article, guys, that was written by Katrina Philippis of Game Ranks, when you rewind the sands of time back to 2010, the swashbuckling Prince of Persia series was still in full swing. Since its 1989 debut, Jordan Mechner's brainchild has brought upon the gaming industry a lasting impact, which most notably manifested in the Tomb Raider and Assassin's Creed franchises. But the worlds of Persia, Italy, France, and Egypt are still different. Instead of an animus, our prince deals with magical daggers, combat mechanics, override stealth, and there are no haystacks in sight. So in 2017, why has the popularity of one of the most influential action-adventure games waned? So almost 5 years ago, Ubisoft said the Prince of Persia franchise would be put on hold until the right time. All our franchises are always in gestation. They're cooking. Some are cooking longer than others, but they're cooking were the precise words of Ubisoft Europe's Elaine Core. However, you look at this, guys, we haven't really had much of like the main entries in the franchise since 2013, guys, which The Shadow and the Flame, which was a remake back in 2013. So believe it or not, the first title in the Assassin's Creed chain was intended to be a Prince of Persia game. Instead of thwarting Jafar's minions, the player would become the prince's guardian. And then the Warrior Within sales plateau. Compared to the massively successful The Sands of Time, 2004's Warrior Within only managed to cough up 800,000 copies, a grave diagnosis for the future of the series. Fortunately, the Two Thrones and 2008 entry Prince of Persia turned things around, but it wouldn't be enough. And so that's where I think is kind of the first thing, guys, is what happened with this franchise was just some sales. The sales of some of these games, even though I loved The Warrior Within, I loved the Two Thrones, I thought that they were those were really well put together games, but they just didn't sell as well as some of their other franchises and even other games within the series itself. To Ubisoft's surprise, the story of Desmond Miles resonated with gamers so strongly, it translated in astronomically high sales figures, stagnating around 2.2 million copies. The reimagined 3D Prince of Persia couldn't keep up with the behemoth that was Assassin's Creed, which reached 10 million. So look, guys, when you look at Prince of Persia, it's not selling. You're looking 800,000, copies for Warrior Within. Let's say Prince of Persia made, the Two Thrones and Prince of Persia got like 1 million copies each. 10 million for Assassin's Creed is, that's so huge. That's such a huge difference. Why wouldn't you adjust and put all of your resources into a game like Assassin's Creed, which is what they did, which basically, in my opinion, was what ruined Assassin's Creed essentially for a period of time, was just kind of oversaturating that game in particular. But seeing the success of the original Assassin's Creed game, good old Ubi started pumping out new Assassin's Creed titles every year, similar to Call of Duty. As a whole, the franchise has surpassed 100 million copies and units sold. The Prince of Persia profits simply weren't in the same league. So what does all this mean for Prince of Persia fans? Is the series dead? Call me overly optimistic, but I think a good franchise can never really die. Whether there is in fact a new game in development is still unknown. However, if Ubisoft plans to revive Prince of Persia, it's going to need fresh ingredients and a new oven. Only then can it be baked to perfection. So, at the end of the day, guys, there was a couple of things here that I think really hurt Prince of Persia. Number one was, even though The Warrior Within, Two Thrones, I thought that those were great games, Warrior Within didn't sell as well. And so that kind of hurts, right? The reception of some of these wasn't as good either as some of the others. And then Assassin's Creed comes out, and it's like this juggernaut of a franchise. And Ubisoft takes that, and they're like, this is our Call of Duty. So we're just going to pump these out every single year, essentially. And we're going to just generate a ton of revenue from that. So they'll probably take a bunch of the teams from Prince of Persia, put them on Assassin's Creed, and there you have it. You got other franchises like The Division, Watch Dogs, that Ubisoft is kind of utilizing because they're making a lot of money right now. Not saying that Prince of Persia is something that'll never come back, but it's right now probably an afterthought. Something that Ubisoft probably isn't really thinking about going back to as of yet. But here's the thing, guys. If you're a big Prince of Persia fan, you just have to voice your opinion to the developers. We build movements around these things, guys, where, if there's enough people that want something made, Ubisoft or whoever the developer is may very well see that and think to themselves, you know what, it might be time to go back to Prince of Persia, especially something not like Android and iOS. But here's the positive thing, is that they're still thinking about Prince of Persia because they're bringing out games. Even though it's an iOS and Android-based game, a mobile device game, we're still getting Prince of Persia. So that tells you something, that they haven't moved on from Prince of Persia completely. It's up to the community to say, hey, we want another Prince of Persia main entry in the franchise at some point in the foreseeable future. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys want to see a continuation of Prince of Persia? What do you think happened to the franchise? Let me know what you guys think. And for more Prince of Persia content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. A franchise that seemed like it was really competing with the juggernaut that was the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series was Skate, guys. This was a franchise that spans across 3 different games and was really starting to build something special. But all of a sudden it ended, and we haven't seen a continuation of Skate since then. And so I want to talk about, in this last segment of the show, where is Skate 4 and could we see a Skate 4 in the foreseeable future? So let's talk about it. Guys, as I said, Skate kind of spans between 3 different games. You have Skate 1, Skate 2, Skate 3, and the first Skate came out back in 2007, guys, and its reception was pretty good. Generally favorable reviews from critics on both platforms, according to review aggregator Metacritic. Overall, guys, all across the board, pretty much like 8s out of 10, 7s out of 10. I mean, of course, you had a couple like C pluses, but overall, you had pretty good reviews for Skate 1. Then you get to Skate 2, and from Skate 2, you of course had pretty much a lot of the same. You had generally favorable reviews that of course spanned, across like all of these different review websites. Were giving it 7 and 8s and 9s out of 10s. Really good overall. Game Informer gave it a 9 out of 10. Eurogamer 8 out of 10. Edge 7 out of 10. Just overall doing pretty good. IGN gave it an 8.3 out of 10. That's pretty good at the end of the day. But what I will say is once we got to Skate 3, you had once again generally favorable reviews. That being like with Metacritic, 80 out of 100, 8 out of 10 from IGN. GameSpot, 7 out of 10, or 7.5 out of 10, I should say. And this game came out, guys, back in May of 2010. Okay, so over like about 10 years ago, this game came out. And so we haven't seen a continuation of it. So, I mean, like, seriously, what happened here? Because Skate 3 received generally favorable reviews from critics on both platforms, according to the review aggregator Metacritic. At the end of the day, it's not always the reviews, right? Or the reception. A lot of times, it's also the sales. The game has become a popular staple of Let's Play channels due to its humorous ragdoll physics and glitches, resulting in the game being a high-selling game as late as 2014, requiring EA to issue a reprinting of the title. The game was also one of the most requested titles to be added to the Xbox One backwards compatibility feature and was made backwards compatible on November 10th, 2016. EA shut down the game's servers around the end of 2016. However, just prior to the Electronic Entertainment Expo 2018, in June of 2018 and in late 2019, after Electronic Entertainment Expo 2019, EA reactivated the servers, leading to speculation of either a remaster or Skate 3 or a new title in the Skate series. So look, obviously, guys, EA, they shut down the servers for a while, then they put them back up, right? Now, the question is where is Skate 4? Because is this going to be a game that we could very well see in the future? I think it is, guys, but man, it's been so long. Would they just do a soft reboot? It's really hard to say, but in an article that was written by Alex Averd of Games Radar, let's just call it how we see it. Skate 4 is video games Bigfoot. Every year without fail, there's more rumor and whispers surrounding its potential existence within the darkest corners of Electronic Arts, but so far, the publisher has refrained from either confirming or denying the existence of a new entry in its famed sports action franchise. It's a hard truth to hear right now, especially when Skate 3 continues to be played and enjoyed by thousands even today. But who knows? Perhaps Skate 4 will be a surprise launch title for the PS5 or Xbox Series X in a few years' time. Maybe a big announcement is literally days away, or perhaps we're all just chasing an illusionary pipe dream that will never come to fruition. So look, I think that if we do see a Skate 4, it's probably going to be, it would obviously be on the next generation of consoles, unless they're doing like mobile games or, things of that nature. But ultimately, if they're doing like an actual continuation of this franchise, it's most likely going to be on the next generation of consoles. And we probably won't see, it would probably get announced maybe this year, maybe next year, and then we probably wouldn't see it until a year or so after that. On the evening of June 4th, out of nowhere, Skate 3's online servers came back online mere days before the start of EA Play. Sadly, Electronic Arts had nothing to say during its E3 conference, undermining the significance of that server reboot, but the fact that it happened could still be interpreted as a signal of future intent nonetheless. Going back further in the series' history, Skate and Skate 2 released in 2007 and 2009 respectively, and both sold exceptionally well for a new IP in a niche genre historically dominated by a single franchise. Each title was received favorably by critics and skateboarding fans too, which quickly established the narrative that Skate was fast on its way to dethroning Tony Hawk as the king of the genre. This success inevitably led to the release of Skate 3 in 2010, and while that title represents the series at the top of its game, it didn't sell as well as EA had hoped at the time. Tellingly, however, the game only grew in popularity from there, with a surprising peak in sales by 2014 thanks to PewDiePie. This eventually created more demand than supply for copies of the threequel, at which point EA even reissued new stock to keep sales going. As of today, Skate 3 has sold 2.68 million units worldwide. Still, this clearly hasn't been enough to yet warrant a fourth game in the publisher's mind, as you can read on about. But 2.68 million copies, okay, look, guys, that's not great. It's not great. I mean, when you think of a franchise that, okay, at this point, this would be Skate 3, 2.68 million copies for a developer or in a publisher, they're going to look at that and they're going to say, you know what, maybe we should kind of look for greener pastures. Maybe we should, work on some of our other, franchises, Star Wars and, Battlefield and such, that are going to churn us out a lot more money. But I think that this is a niche genre, and I don't think that this is a game that probably costs a super amount of money to make. But at the end of the day, we really don't know, right? We don't know how much this game costs versus, a Battlefield or, a Star Wars game. But still, I think that this should coexist with other games in the universe, because in the universe of gaming. Because we don't have any more Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, unless they're going to be announcing one of those at some point or another. Why not have another skate game? I think that would be really cool. And so, considering Richtella said this only 5 months on from the release of Skate 3, it reveals how quickly EA had apparently resigned itself to the perceived death of not just their own IP, but the genre at large. This goes a long way in explaining the official radio silence from the company for the next few years, give or take a handful of unsourced rumors. Then nearly 7 years later, something happened. In January 2017, Daniel Lingen, a community engagement executive for EA, tweeted #Skate4 from his personal account with no context or explanation as to why. You can imagine the reaction that followed, with everyone presuming the tweet to be a savvy marketing tactic teasing the existence of the hashtag game in question. This appeared to be corroborated by the fact that EA had recently made Skate 3 backwards compatible for the Xbox One, fueling further speculation about the long-awaited return of the series. Unfortunately, EA CEO Andrew Wilson quickly threw cold water on the buzz in an earnings call a few days later, telling investors that the company is not presently making Skate 4. That was the last official word we've had on the game since then. But note the use of the word presently by Wilson, meaning EA hasn't definitely ruled out making another Skate title in the future. They still own the IP after all. So look, there is a lot of people that want to see Skate 4. I mean, there just is. This is something that I think people are yearning for. A lot of people who are within the skateboarding, just world, love, are in that community, and even just in the video game world of loving skate and games like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, they're wanting to see continuations of this genre, and they haven't been able to get that, unfortunately. But I think, guys, that a lot of this is being fueled by the community, and that's a good thing, though. If you want to see the continuation of your favorite games, a lot of times the way that you do that is by telling the developers what it is that you want. And if you have a big enough community doing that, there's a good chance that you might see the continuation of your franchise. Even after Andrew Wilson had attempted to quell any fervor over the now infamous Skate 4 tweet, people were still gearing up for a reveal of a skate game at EA's E3 press conference in June of 2017. When the conference came and went with not a skateboard in sight, then there was an inevitable backlash. Tyler, the creator, tweeted saying, "Skate 4, I dream of you." Meanwhile, an independent developer has taken matters into its own hands by working on a spiritual successor to Skate 3, heavily inspired by the simulation-focused mechanics of the series itself. Entitled Sessions, many have decided to declare this upcoming game as the unofficial Skate 4 that people have been yearning for, and it's due for a 2019 release. Despite EA's insistence that nothing is happening, the internet has still been actively discussing what they'd like to see in a hypothetical Skate sequel, right down to the nitty-gritty details of its currently non-existent design. The main request is more of the same, with a slight return to the responsive realism of Skate 2. I just want them to remember what they set out to do with the Skate franchise, says Redditor CVBK12. It wasn't meant to be a full-on casual game. I don't want to have to unlock tricks. The more you play, the better you get. And so, look, guys, with Session, that's a good point that, of something that can kind of quench your appetite, so to speak, or your thirst for more skate games. But I think people really want skate, right? People want skate. They want a game like Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Those are the big juggernauts in this space that people really want. And at this point, it just doesn't, I don't know if we're really going to be able to see another Skate unless EA kind of takes the reins and says, let's do it. Kind of like Dead Space. It feels somewhat like Dead Space. EA, closed Visceral Games, they have a franchise that has a solid following, but they just won't pursue it because they're pursuing those bigger titles that, like Star Wars and Battlefield. And, obviously they've had Madden, they've had other games where it's like, why would you even continue making these games in the franchise? They're just making more money off of these other, franchises that they own. It's really unfortunate, guys, but it's just kind of becoming a reality for the gaming industry that they're going to use their dollars in a way in which is going to make them more money and not take unnecessary risks, that being like a Skate 4. We're of two minds about Skate 4. Of course, we'd love to see another entry in the series, but at the same time, EA has changed a lot since 2010. If the reality of a Skate 4 game is one which features an overpriced season pass, walled-off pre-order bonuses, and distasteful microtransactions, then we instead prefer to just theoretically enjoy the ideal version of Skate 4 that currently exists in our imagination. To be fair, upcoming EA titles like Anthem, which obviously has already come out, guys, but suggest is making a move away from the Faustian profiteering of its past and towards a more consumer-first business model, which is absolutely not true. And I do agree 100%, guys, that EA has changed a lot since 2010. They are absolutely of the mindset of they're a money-making machine, essentially. Microtransactions, overpriced season passes, and pre-order bonuses, microtransactions. Those are all things, guys, that pretty much all the biggest companies are into. So if you got a Skate 4, the way that I look at it is if you get a Skate 4, just be aware and prepared that they're going to have all this stuff. But at least you're getting a Skate 4. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you got to look at. There was a lot of backlash with Gears 5 and how those microtransactions were handled in Gears 5. But it's like, look, at least we got another Gears title that we were able to go to. There's a lot of franchises like Skate that we haven't seen a continuation of. That community hasn't had that continuation. They want it. Regardless of whether there's microtransactions, things of that nature, you want that continuation. So I think, guys, that I see it from both sides, but I really think that if you want to Skate 4, you just have to expect nowadays that there's going to be microtransactions, and it's up to you, though, to be responsible enough just to say, no, I'm not going to buy any microtransactions. After all this build-up and drama, then Skate 4 absolutely has to be worth the wait, but we're willing to give EA the benefit of the doubt if it eventually wishes to make a fourth-wheeled comeback in the future. So, guys, I want to hear from all of you. What do you guys think about the Skate franchise? What do you think happened there? And where is Skate 4 at this point? Do you guys want there to be a Skate 4? Do you think it has to do with EA as a whole, or do you think it has to do with like poor sales or just a lack of ideas with the franchise and the genre as a whole? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And for more Skate 4 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.